directors will please come to order. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Director Herndon is excused tonight. Director O'Halloran.
Present.
Director Peterson.
Present.
Director Taylor.
Physically in attendance.
Chair Carr.
Present.
We have 4 members of the committee present.
The chair will now ask the secretary to lead us in the recitation, of the Pledge of Allegiance. The chair invites anyone who wishes to participate to do so and asks that those who do not wish to participate, please remain silent during the recitation.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The meeting is being conducted in person from the Central Services Building. In order to allow as much public access and participation as possible, this meeting is also being broadcasted via live stream on the MPS website and on the MPS YouTube stream, the links to which may be found on the MPS website on the broadcast page. Before we begin tonight's meeting, we have a short announcement regarding interpretation services for the Spanish-speaking members of our audience.
Madam Chair, one quick moment. We will get that started. Madam Chair, while we do not have the announcement available, we do have translation services available for individuals wishing, needing that service at the number listed on the public notice for translation services being requested. In addition, if anyone needs translation services, they can call our linguistics line for tonight's meeting.
Okay. For each of our items of business, we will hold a discussion and public hearing. Those who wish to speak on tonight's items were required to register to speak in advance of the start of the meeting. When you are called upon to speak, please state your name and spell your last name for the record. I ask those who are waiting to speak virtually to remain on the platform until you are called upon to speak. After a speaker's time is up, they may continue to follow the meeting at one of the broadcast options mentioned previously. For the sake of fairness and to give everyone a chance to speak, the chair reserves the right to limit the length of time allowed to any one speaker. Written testimony will be accepted for transmittal to the board. Send this testimony to the Office of Board Governance, P.O. Box 2181, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 53201-2181, or fax to 414-475-8071, or email it to the Board Governance Office at governance@Milwaukee, spelled out, .k12.wi.us. Just as a reminder, Robert's Rules of Order dictates all comments should be directed to the chair of the committee. Also, any questions or requests, including those from the public, committee members, or the administration, are to be directed towards the chair, who will determine the most efficient way to address them. For the safety of all and to ensure the good order of the meeting, harassment or intimidation tactics of any kind will not be tolerated. Anyone who engages in such harassing or intimidating actions or words will immediately be asked to cease. If such behavior continues, a recess will be called and the offending parties will be removed from the meeting before the meeting resumes. Anyone ejected from the meeting may continue to listen to the meeting or access the agenda items online. However, he or she will not be allowed to rejoin the meeting. Also, no other than members of the board, the staff of the superintendent's office, the Office of Board Governance, and the Office of Accountability and Efficiency, and those who have been invited to present or participate in items of business will be allowed on stage before, during, or after meetings of the board and its committees. Also, for our listening audience, if you wish to access this evening's agenda items and attachments online, you may do so by visiting the meetings, agendas, and minutes page on the MPS website and choosing online agendas. Before we begin, Madam Secretary, if there is no objection from the committee members, I would like to move item 10, report with possible action on school nutrition after item 2. Madam Secretary, please call the first item.
The first item of business on tonight's agenda is item number 1. Action on monthly personnel matters, action on certificated personnel transactions, actions on the certificated appointments, action on the leaves of absence, the report on certificated resignations and classified retirements, and the affirmative action report. The administration recommends that the board approve the promotions, appointments, and leaves as listed in the attachments to this item to be effective upon board approval.
Would the administration please present this item?
Chair Carr and members of the committee, Keith Posley, Superintendent of Schools. We're asking your approval of the monthly personnel and reporting items before you. Adria Maddalini, Chief Human Resource Officer, is here with me this evening, and we're prepared to answer any questions that you may have in regards to this item. Thank you.
Do committee members wish to make comments or ask questions? Director Peterson?
Yes, in looking at the action on classified personnel transactions, I just want to say that it looks like somebody's been working hard because by my count, over 50 paras were hired, 10 more paras were rehired. So we're making some real progress on that. I see food service workers increasing as well. Could we hear how many vacancies we have in some of those areas, though, still, to let people know in the community that we're looking for people still?
Administration?
Chair Carr, Director Peterson, Adria Maddalini, Chief Human Resources Officer. Yes, I first definitely want to recognize my staff in Human Resources. They've done a lot of hard work when it comes to hiring individuals, bringing people in, signing contracts. They have really been putting their foot on the pedal, really working hard. We had 2 on-site recruitment events here at Central Office last week that we got over 50 people showed up at each one. I mean, these are people that showed up, they applied for jobs, they actually did tested, and were interviewed on site. So we're very excited about that. We have another event here tomorrow, so anyone that's listening wants to stop by Central Office. We're hiring and interviewing for paraprofessionals, food service, school safety, I know IT, I know we're looking for some bookkeepers. We're definitely looking, so please stop by tomorrow. And I definitely want to say, with regards to food service, we have made some tweaks to the interview process. We're able to look at switching to kind of an online mobile interview instead of doing a test for food service. And that process has yielded a lot quicker and better results. We have people that were more willing to do that kind of mobile, canned interview versus, okay, you have to come in and show up for a test. So we've definitely gotten a response for that and been able to hire and get people through that process. When it comes to paraprofessionals, we have, over 120 paraprofessional vacancies still that we have, and are continuing to fill and working hard to fill. We know it's a challenging area for us, so we will continue to do so, and working hard to fill those positions throughout the school year. Same thing with food service. We have over 150 food service vacancies, but because of our efforts with the change in our testing and interviewing process, We have over 50 individuals that are in the queue to be hired that are just going through background check and physical. So we're hoping those people go through the process, they'll clear, and they'll continue to work for us. So I think we'll be able to get those numbers down definitely in significant chunks. We're actually, I know food service, they are having on-site orientations every week, so they're getting people in. As soon as they pass the test, they pass their background check and physical, they can come in next week. So definitely, we are doing everything we can and are trying to get the word out. So definitely, anyone's looking for work, come stop by, or you can just come down to room 124 here at Central Office. We're happy to assist you. We have computer banks there. People can apply right on site if they come into our office. So I'm happy to share any more information you would like.
Thank you. Follow up?
What are the hours tomorrow for people to come in?
Of course, I'm sorry, and I don't have that off the top of my head. I know it's during the day at some point. So if you give me a minute, I will say it.
Thank you. Any follow-up? Okay.
Thank you.
Any other members of the committee who wish to make comments or ask questions? Do any members of the public wish to make comments? Okay.
Madam Chair, we have no request for public testimony on this item.
Madam Secretary, can I pass the gavel? Yeah, okay, okay. I just want to say congratulations, and echo the same sentiments as, President Peterson. You know, this is a significant, change from, the last reports, and it really shows the hard work, the effort that's been put forth, from you and your team. And so I just wanted to give a public kudos, shout out, excellent work. And I didn't expect progress of this magnitude or of this size, but this is amazing, so thank you. I'll take the gavel back.
If I could chime in, Chair Carr, members of the committee, Adrian Maddaleni, Chief Human Resources Officer, again, thank you for the kind words for the HR team. I do want to say the hours tomorrow is 9 to 12, so stop by here at Central Office. And you can apply on-site, and like I said, we're doing on-site interviews, and for positions that require testing, we're having testing for secretary positions, so absolutely stop by.
Thank you. Okay. All right, what is the
Madam Chair?
pleasure?
I'm sorry, I just wanted, you had intended to pass the gavel. I just want to make sure you still have the gavel.
I think so.
So noted. Thank you.
Thank you. What is the pleasure of the committee with respect to this item? Director O'Hall, okay, somebody.
I move approval of administration's recommendation as it pertains to the promotions, appointments, and leaves as listed in the attachments.
Thank you. Second is not needed, right? Okay, is there any further discussion? Will the secretary please call the roll?
On Director O'Halloran's motion to approve the administration's recommendation relative to the monthly personnel matters. Director O'Halloran?
Aye.
Director Peterson?
Aye.
Director Taylor? Aye. And Chair Carr?
Aye.
That's 4 ayes. The motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item number 2, action on recommended administrative appointments, promotions, reassignments, and reclassifications, salary increases and decreases, and the limited term employment contracts exceeding 60 days. The administration recommends that the board, 1, authorize the individuals to be promoted, reassigned, or reclassified to receive the salary increases or decreases, and be appointed to the classifications indicated in the attachments to this item to be effective as indicated in the attachment. And 2, approve the LTE contracts exceeding 60 days pursuant to Administrative Policy 6.23, Parent 4, Parent B, to be effective as indicated in the attachment.
Would the administration please present this item?
Yes, Chair Carr and members of the committee, we are requesting your approval of this item as outlined this month's administrative appointments, promotions, reclassifications, salary adjustments, and LTE contracts. Adria Matalini is here with me, and she's going to make some brief statements, and after she's done, we'll be more than happy to entertain any questions that you may have. Adria.
Thank you, Chair Carr, members of the committee, Adria Matalini, Chief Human Resources Officer. As you can see, another busy month for administrative appointments. I just wanted to bring some clarification. You'll see on the LTE appointments, there's an individual, Mr. Diop, that is listed twice. Sometimes that can be confusing for individuals. Our LTE contracts are only 6 months in length, but on occasion, especially when it comes to school-based LTEs, we allow them to sign back-to-back 6-month contracts to provide continuity for services through the remainder of the school year. This individual is providing some African drumming lessons at Marshall High School, so we wanted to lock him in and make sure that we have him for the entire school year. So just wanted to provide that clarification.
Thank you. Do committee members wish to make comments or ask questions? Do any members of the public wish to make comments?
Madam Chair, we have no request for public testimony on this item.
What is the pleasure of the committee with respect to this item? Director Peterson?
I move that we approve the administration's recommendations.
Is there any further discussion? Will the secretary please call the roll?
On Director Peterson's motion to approve the administration's recommendation relative to the administrative appointments, promotions, reassignments, and reclassifications, the salary increases and decreases, and the limited term employment contracts exceeding 60 days. On the motion as read into the record, Director O'Halloran.
Aye.
Director Peterson.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
And Chair Carr.
Aye.
That's 4 ayes. The motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item would be item number 10, based on the request to move the item forward, and that is a report with possible action on the MPS School Nutrition Program. This is an informational item, and although it has been noticed for possible action, no action is required.
Will the administration please present the item?
Yes, Chair Carr and members of the committee, this evening we're asking that you accept the school nutrition program report as submitted. I have Mr. Omar Abdullah, Director of School Nutrition Services, to present this item, and after which we will be more than happy to entertain any questions that you may have. Omar.
Good evening, Chair Carr, members of the committee. Omar Abdullah, Director of School Nutrition Services. We're going to present our quarterly nutrition report as all of our department operations and activities revolve around 5 priorities of success, and we try to align with those priorities. Next slide.
Madam Chair, one quick moment. We want to be sure that our audience members can see the PowerPoint presentation. We're enlarging. Thank you.
This slide shows the number of meals that we have served since the beginning of the fiscal year, July 1st. In the first table on the left-hand side, we have the number of meals that we served for the summer program, for a total of about 141,000 meals. The second table on the right-hand side of the slide, that is for the school year, from the August 15th through September meal counts. As you can see, we have made an improvement compared to last school year from 1.398 million meals to 1,457,000 meals. That is just within month and a half, and that's a difference of approximately 60,000 meals. So we are making progress, and we are moving in the right direction. Next slide. It talks about fresh fruit and vegetable program. We proudly participate in the USDA Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program every year. For the 2022-23 school year, MPS received this grant for 81 schools for a total amount of $2,020,152. Next slide is a list of schools that we had presented in our last nutrition report of the schools that we are planning to transition to production kitchens. So the 4 schools that you see on the slide highlighted in yellow, they have already been transitioned to be a production kitchen. We are every week, as Chief Madeline mentioned in the previous items, that we are having orientation of our staff on a weekly basis. So every orientation, we are looking at schools that we can transition over to the production kitchens. So we have a good start. We are improving in the number of meals that we are serving. We are also working really hard to offer more choices to our students compared to last school year. So overall, we are making progress and we are moving in the right direction. Next few slides, our operations manager, Renee, will talk about it.
Good evening, Director Carr and members of the committee. Renee Slotten-Beauchamp, Operations Manager. As Omer indicated, we've worked really hard this summer changing our menu to make it more appealing and acceptable to our students. So a few of the changes that we have made is we still have some pre-packed sites, but we are also utilizing those on a limited basis on certain days, about 2 to 3 days a week, that we are offering bulk items to be sent out to the school, so they're served on the line that the students can take them or not take them. So it's called offer versus serve. So for lunch, they have to take 3 out of 5 items. So this gives the students that opportunity to make their own determination. When we have fresh fruit out, we have different types of fruit. So instead of being in the pre-pack and it's a set type of fruit, the students can choose their own fruit that they would like. So those are a couple things that we are doing. We are also putting pans out for these students as well, that they can take carrots and their condiments, and they can choose those items. We are doing this for twofold. It's for labor, because we're not packing every day 2 packs, such as Vincent High School right now is doing over 8,000 packs a day. So if we have 2 packs, that is 16,000 packs a day that they are preparing. So by doing this, we can keep the labor down, and our staff does not have to work second shifts, which they did last year. So the morale has been increased a little because they're not working as hard. And also we are helping the students make that determination and be able to choose some of those. As Omer indicated, going back out to bring those schools back to production, when we hire and do the orientation, we're strategically working with our new hires, so we know what schools we want to bring on next. So we're trying to fill those as fast as we can to bring those students the production, and also it will take it off of our central kitchens for packing. So we're trying to really help lower the labor that we have going out, but also make it very appealing to our student body. So this is an example of what our new menu looks like, and I know it's very colorful, but this is how our staff sees it. So we do offer 2 choices a day. One is always a vegetarian meal. So we're trying very hard to meet those needs of the students, and it's not just a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. We're looking at like vegetarian chili. If you see on day 1, week 1, we have vegetarian chili. We also are offering some other types of foods. I will say our plans are well laid out, but with the supply chain, there are times that the product does not come in, and we don't know that until the truck shows up on the dock. So we do have to scramble, and we apologize to parents that look at the menu and think that we're going to have chili today and we don't, we have something else. What we're trying to do, and working with our broadline distributor, that we mirror something very close to what's already on the menu. So if it's a vegetarian item, we try to have another vegetarian item. So this was just to give you kind of an overview how we look and how we're planning to move forward. So right now, we have a 4-week cycle menu. We are looking for spring to make a new menu again, to add new items, because we're being told hopefully that the supply chain issue will improve. I don't know if you've been to the grocery store lately, but I'm not very convinced, because there are days that the products just aren't coming in. But we're working with our distributor. So equipment has been an issue in the district, and last year we spent $204,000 on equipment, and that's what we got in. We did order some other that did not come in with a supply chain. I'll give you an example. The 22 milk coolers we ordered in October of last year, we got them in late April of this year. So we really struggled. This year, right now, for the first semester, my anticipation is $2,300,000 that we will be spending on, and that's just a tip of the iceberg of what we need to replace out there. But we're trying to work with our vendors so that we can put out a little at a time to hope they can get it out there and get those pieces in, and then we can get others out there. And looking at if they can't, that we go to some other vendors and bring those products in.
Thank you. Chair Carr, members of the committee, Umar Abdullah, Director of School Nutrition Services. So that concludes our report, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, can we take public comments first?
So noted. We will begin our online testimony. We do have Adriana Torres on the line. Please state your name, spell your last name, and begin your testimony. Okay, the next person on the platform is Carly Pearson. Please state your name, spell your last name, and begin your testimony.
My name is Carly Pearson, Pierson.
Okay, we do show Carly on the platform. And so what we'll do is begin our in-person testimony and come back to the online testimony, if that's okay, Madam Chair?
Yes.
Okay, great. The first person up to the podium is Jocelyn Wolf. Please state your name, spell your last name, and begin your testimony.
Jocelyn? I'm sorry. Forgive me. We can't hear you, and I don't want you to have to repeat your entire. Give me 1 second. Yeah, and if you don't mind, start over when we get the cue. Thank you.
A senior at Riverside High School. I'm here representing YES, Youth Empowerment Struggle, to seek help from the student board to improve our lunches. Last year, YES put out a survey to see what was students' least favorite part of school. Most students put school lunches. This is a big problem. Many students are not able to eat because of their dietary needs not being met. We hope that today, we can get our 6 demands met. Fresh food with locally sourced ingredients cooked in schools. More food options available. Meeting students' religious dietary needs and cultural preferences. Kosher, vegetarian, and vegan options. Larger portion sizes. Larger workforce with pay raises for food service employees. monthly meetings with administration board and nutrition department. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next person to the platform is William Picken. Please state your name, spell your last name, and begin your testimony.
William, last name Pickard. I am a sophomore at Hamilton and also a YES member. I appreciate work that is being done to improve lunches, and I appreciate those who put work out into making lunches and putting it out for us, because I realize it can be grueling work and it can be difficult, especially if supply chain issues and lack of workers. And I just wish there was more transparency between lunches and the general people, because I am a poor student. I'm not always fully fed when I go home, so lunch is something that I really rely on to be fully fed. And inconsistency in lunches, it being unpalatable or even sometimes uneatable, getting bad milk, unfresh fruit, they're all things that I have to worry about when I, go into the cafeteria. It's something I have to worry about, because if I don't, again, I might go hungry for the rest of the day. I might have to wait till tomorrow and hope for a better lunch. It's something that kind of scares me in a way. It's something I don't think many kids should have to go through, let alone, it's something I don't think I should go through or other kids should go through. And it's something I think needs improvement. Again, I'm not trying to blame anyone specific. I'm just saying the issues are there, and I think the best compromise, the best solution is transparency and working together with nutrition department and students, which is why I'd like to thank Omar Abdullah for agreeing to meet with us come the 27th, if I'm not mistaken, Thursday 27th. Yeah, I'd like to thank you for that. I just hope the student body, yes, and the workers, staff, and administration, school board, can keep a positive rapport. I don't want to make I don't want to make a bad relationship between the two. I don't want to vilify people, because I feel when you do that, you just create more division. It makes it a lot worse for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Chair, at this time, we can go to the online testimony. Carly Pearson, please state your name, spell your last name, and begin your testimony.
First name Carly, last name Pierson.
Thank you.
I'm a junior at Golden Meyer High School, and I think that as much as it's important for everyone to have the option of school lunch, it's even more important that people actually eat the lunch that's offered. And with the lunches as they are now, most people aren't eating anyways because the food isn't appetizing. If we got freshly made food, or at least better produced food, more people would eat. And the idea of having good food at lunch would make people happier during their classes. And it would ultimately impact the school environment in a more positive way. It's a proven fact that having a full belly makes people more focused and having more energy during the day, therefore increasing students' attention spans and making it more likely for them to complete their work. Eating nutritional food affects both memory and stress, making retention levels rise and stress levels decrease. As educators, having better fed students will make the classroom environment more enjoyable for everyone. I have many friends who eat little to no food during the school day, and I see numerous other people in the same situation. So while having free lunches for everyone is a great idea in theory, it's just not working out. Going forward, the best option for everyone affected, that being students, student families, educators, administrators, is having more nutritional and fresh school lunches for everybody.
Thank you. Madam Chair, that completes public testimony on this item.
Thank you, and thank you to everyone who provided testimony. Do any members of the committee wish to speak? Director Taylor?
Thank you, Chairwoman, and thank you all for putting this together. I know we've been hearing about school lunches and been working very hard to see how does this happen. For the schools that I'm seeing, it seemed like most of those were maybe elementary or K through 8th grade. And the reason I asked is I believe it was me and President Peterson and maybe Director Herndon got called out to one of the high schools or two last year. And so I was wondering, are we trying to think of something different with high school students versus our younger students? When we think about some of these meals, we see so much go into the garbage that we can use that money to actually serve different items that they like, maybe rotating a couple items if we took a survey of what do they eat. So I know it seems like a loaded question, but.
Administration?
Director Carr, committee, members of the committee, Renee Slotin-Beauchamp, Operations Manager. We are looking at that at the high schools. The high schools are, all except for, I believe, 2 of them, are production sites right now. And so they are not using pre-pack. So that was a big move for us, a little bit. But we also are working on training our staff. To go to, from pre-pack, pre-pandemic, we had a different model. Then we went to the pandemic, had a different model, and did it very fast. And we lost some of our seasoned employees that knew how to cook. And so now we're kind of in a quandary that we are having some staff come in, but the skill set and knowledge base of what we want to do for production is not there. Will we get there? We're working on it. So in response to our students that did a nice job of bringing these issues forward, we're working on it, and some of our staff are struggling, so we're out there working on it side by side. We're hiring a chef, and that is going to be one of the things they will be doing, is going out working in these kitchens side by side for food presentation, because that's a big thing. Students eat with their eyes, not only high school students, elementary students. So having students eat with their eyes, working on that, the presentation, but also the quality of the food. And so our motto is always, if you wouldn't eat it, don't serve it to the students. And I've been out in a couple of schools. Omer and I were at a school the other day that there was a couple trays that we pulled back because we wouldn't have eaten it, and they didn't look nice. So we're really trying to get out there and motivate our staff, encourage our staff to make those choices. But for the high schools, yes, we're looking at a different model, having more entree items, and that's a real paradigm shift for some of our staff, because when they're serving 500, they're thinking they have to serve 500 of this option, 500 of this option, and that's not the case. We need to have it available for all students, but they have to get into the thought process on how to calculate how many meals of this option, this option, this option. So that is where we're really putting our priorities and setting our goal to really work with those staff members and get them trained, and work with the students and ask the students when they come through, how was lunch today? And we're doing that, and some of the schools are doing better than others. I'll be very transparent, and we have some that are seasoned, more seasoned managers that are adapting better than some of our others. But we're out there, as we're hiring, we're really trying to work with them. So yes, and that's our goal, to have at the high school some different ethnic meals and some really change up the menu. So that's what we're meeting again on Friday now, looking at our January, February, March menus.
Chair Carr and members of the committee, first of all, I just want to acknowledge a great job that the students have done tonight in bringing before us the comments that you have, and thank you, thank you, thank you. Also, the advisory council, the superintendent advisory council, we have started going out to have lunch with students, and that is another way we're looking at how we better shape the menu, because we're talking to students about what is it that you want to eat.
Yes.
Share with us what that is, and that is something that we're bringing back and passing along to make sure that we are hearing our students. Had an opportunity a couple weeks ago to be over at one of the schools, and the young people coming through the line, and it was amazing to see young people asking for salads.
Yeah.
And I was like, salads, and there was a number of salads that was prepared for the students, and they had already taken them all right out the gate. So that was something that we come back with, looking at fresh salads that our young people will partake in as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Taylor, any follow-up?
Yeah, really quick. And thank you all for that, and thank you for the young people that showed up tonight, as well as those individuals that was online. I won't predate myself, but I'll say I went to South Division, and even back then we had an option of getting the hot meal and the salad. And a lot of people that didn't want to eat the hot meal took the salad. I often looked at that and say it doesn't cost a lot, but I know when you're buying for over 50-some thousand students, all of it add up. So I'm just really happy to see that we're looking at different options that we can have for our young people, and that we are aggressively handling this school menu. Because I can remember last year and the year before that, I think every other time we had a meeting, school lunches came up. So thank you all for the work that you're doing. It seems very diligent, and just looking forward to where it goes from here. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you. Director Peterson?
Just real quickly, I had the pleasure of meeting with 2 classes on a Southside High School recently, and the teacher had done a survey about what they wanted to talk to the school board president about, and the top one was school lunch. And they had some similar concerns, some that weren't mentioned. I just want to one is they said sometimes the milk is frozen. Maybe that has to do with the milk coolers. But and they also talked about portions, and I know one of the people who testified talked about that as well. And if after I'm done, if you could just comment on the portions with some of the, I think student athletes in particular were interested in bigger portions. They did say, however, that I asked them what they would like or liked. They said some wanted strawberry flavored milk back. They wanted a lunch salad buffet. And finally, they said they really like mock chicken legs. And I know our superintendent does too, so maybe that's why it's on the menu. But thank you.
Thank you, Director Peterson. Any response from the administration?
Director Carr, members of the committee, Renee Slotton-Beauchamp, Operations Manager. I'll try and address some of the items that you listed. Strawberry milk we're taking a look at right now. We're even, some of the schools in the surrounding areas are having difficulty even getting any milk because of the supply shortage. So that's something we can look at down the road. I think we're trying just to make sure we have what we can get for right now. Strawberry milk does have more sugar in it, so we would have to really take a look at that with our nutritionals, but that is something that we can work through. Along with the nutritionals is also the portion sizes. We are limited to an extent of how much we can offer students, and it's frustrating. I realize when you're someone that's very athletic and you're burning a lot of calories, it doesn't look like much on your tray. We understand that. But with USDA, we have a calorie restriction for the week. We have a calorie sodium restriction, and so we have to fall within those parameters. But what we can do now that we're kind of moving out of the pandemic is we can take a look at a la carte items that students can buy, and we have a smart sheet that we can only have certain types of items offered to those students, but we can offer those for those students to have more calories, because we do know they're hungry and they're growing, and that's a good thing. But we also want to be within the realm of what we can offer. So again, looking at those menus, sometimes when it's just a salad, the calories aren't there for the salad. But we can also offer breadsticks and things like that that build those calories up when they eat those salads and those type of menus. So that's kind of, and the lunch salad buffet, now that the pandemic is kind of waning. The CDC is starting to allow that more, so we can take a look at those options too. Again, it's not going to be a full buffet that everybody goes through. You have to kind of keep it for sanitation purposes, but we can also move in that direction. And we're waiting for the CDC for a lot of this was for sanitation, that we had to make some drastic changes.
Chair Carr and members of the committee, and you made reference to mock chicken legs. I will assure you that we made sure that we were able to offer mock chicken legs to our students. So that is on the menu and is on the menu to stay.
Thank you. Any follow-up?
Speaking of as a vegetarian, I just think that's really great.
Thank you. Director O'Halloran?
Thank you. So when there's issues, whether it's spoiled milk, frozen milk, whatever, Can you remind people who are listening the best way that the young people can bubble up these issues so that they can be addressed in a timely manner, not just at a quarterly nutritional update?
Administration?
Absolutely. Director Carr, members of the committee, Renee Slottenbo-Champ, Operations Manager. We really encourage our managers need to engage with our students. So they need to let students know that if there is something like the frozen milk or something, that they come up to the counter and ask for another one. And that's the way we learn that there's a problem. Or if there is something, a foreign object or something, a bone or something in the chicken that shouldn't be there, if we don't see it, sometimes it helps us. We can take a picture and we can send it to the manufacturer and going, here's what we have. You know, what happened here? Because this shouldn't be in there. So we really encourage parents, if you would really talk to your students, if there is a problem, go up to the lunch ladies and lunch dudes, I call them, or guys, and talk to them and show them what is in there and what is wrong. Because we do want to serve a good meal, and we don't want a child to sit there and this doesn't look good, it's frozen milk, and not get the calcium they need.
Any follow-up, Director Hova?
I do have one more question. For the slide that we had, I think we had 24 schools that were planned to move back to production for 22-23. 4 of them were highlighted as already moved back. Given the current vacancies, the cohort that we're onboarding all of the time, I guess, is not really a cohort, but it seems like every week we're going to be onboarding people. What is the likelihood that we'll be able to achieve all of those schools? Do you anticipate any challenges given our current vacancies in realizing that goal on that slide?
Administration?
Chair Carr, members of the committee, Omar Abdullah, Director of School Nutrition Services. Definitely, it's very much dependent on how quickly we get the staffing. Because in addition to just bringing people on board, we also have to train them. As you see, we have 4 schools that we already transitioned, and we have 4 more schools that are lined up right now. So we have Lincoln Avenue, Forest Home, Grand Tosa, and I believe Congress. So those are the 4 schools that we have next in line, and we are looking at, what their current staffing position is, and depending on how many people come through HR for the orientation, we are making that determination, like, who we can transition to a production kitchen right away. So I would say that, yes, it is doable. I think the way last 2-3 weeks have gone, we are getting some people added to our staff every week. So we think it's doable, but only time will show, how many people we are going to hire. As Chief Madeline mentioned, that there is about more than 40 people are in line. If we get those, 35, 40 people, I think we can make a big progress there.
Any follow-up?
I don't have any more questions. I just, this was an amendment that I had brought through the budget to try to put some extra resources behind hiring. I'm glad to see all of the people that we have been able to hire for nutrition services, and if there are any ideas that administration has that the board can implement, any recommendations, I'm all ears and really happy to support it. I will just say anecdotally, one of my kids is like all about school lunch and the other kid would rather go the whole day without eating. So on a very personal level, like I recognize that this is a challenge, and this is, to the young person who testified, this is not, I'm not casting aspersions against the people that are doing the work. I thank you for the work. It's just a continual struggle. So I think the board would be supportive of anything, any recommendations that you have or any support you need from us. We are all ears.
Administration?
Chair Carr, members of the committee, I just would like to say we will keep, the administration will keep the board abreast of any changes and anything that we need to go forward. One of the big things were the whole idea of the testing process, and we've worked through that. The other piece is going to come with the compensation study, and we're in the process of that because it's hourly wages, and we have that, that's something that the compensation study is going to take a look at. So with that in mind, that is what we're kind of waiting on to look at making some adjustments from salary standpoints and seeing what that piece come back with. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, I'd like to pass the gavel. So I would like to thank each and every one of you for providing testimony. I hear you all. I had the opportunity to visit 3 schools in District 4 and sit in on lunch duty. And of the 3 experiences, each one was different. And I recall the one that was maybe the less favorable less favorable meal option. I remember there being a shortage of staff, and that being the reason for that food option, and it was very unfortunate. And to the points that you all have mentioned, many students depend on the meals because after school they have no other options. And so I would like to take things just a little further, and I do want to acknowledge the efforts of the Department of Nutrition Services. Your work, again, is evident, and I know that it is not necessarily the department that is the issue, but just shortages across the nation. And so I want to be mindful of that. I'd like to make a motion, and I'm going to read it as I wrote it. And I want for us to explore the possibility of combining the vacant food service positions to create a minimum of 30 40-hour positions to support the recruitment efforts in food services and to ensure we have the staff that we need in order to provide all of our students with quality and balanced nutritional meals. The reason why I say this is because it is my understanding that the positions that we have vacant are positions that offer 3 to 4 hour workdays. And I often wonder if the reason why we are not able to successfully recruit and retain is because we are not offering full-time employment opportunities or even offering flexibility in scheduling that will allow for someone to hold a full-time position and a part-time position. And so I just want us to explore the possibility of combining the vacant positions to create 30, 40-hour positions and have a report back for next month's committee meeting to determine if there were any changes or increases in the applicants. And so, Madam Chair, do I repeat that? I'm sorry, Madam Secretary, yes. Okay. So the motion is to explore the possibility of combining the vacant food service positions to create a minimum of 30 40-hour-a-week positions to support recruitment and retention efforts. And I would also like for it to be for us to consider innovative ways with our staffing the shifts. And so, for example, instead of 7 to 3, is there a possibility that we could do maybe 11 to 7 to provide more flexibility, a larger window for individuals to work this position or complete the duties? Does that make sense? Everybody looks puzzled.
Chair.
I'm sorry, Dr.
Chair
Posley.
Carr and, I'm sorry. Chair O'Halloran and members of the committee, we will be more than happy to take a look at that, but the only thing about it is the idea that we need more people in more schools than we need a number of hours in a school. If it's a production kitchen or something of that nature, we could take a look at that particular piece. But I'm gonna yield to the team also to make comments, because we need so many people across a number of different schools. It's not, I do agree that a larger number of hours would attract more people to come to the profession, but it wouldn't, I don't know if we have that number of hours in one school, is
Okay.
what I'm saying. So, go ahead. Go, Champ.
Chair O'Halloran, am I right? Or committee members of the committee, Renee Slotin-Beauchamp, Operations Manager. Right now, I am doing the staffing and the hiring type. Most of our positions are 6-hour positions that yield benefits. So I think what we could do is a study to show you how many of those individual hourly positions we have. And what we use for the staffing model, it's called meals per labor hour. So we take a look at how many meals are produced at that school, and then we look at how many hours it takes to do that. And that's a standard in the nutrition field, in the child nutrition field. So it's called meals per labor hour. So I did a whole study this summer looking at that. We increased some schools that were serving more students. We increased hours there, and some had too many hours. And so we decreased at those schools because they were standing around, some of our staff, there wasn't really something for them to do. So while over here, they were struggling because they were really short. So we did divert and move some staffing around. So I would counter propose that, could we just give you some information to take a look at so you can see how many hours we are having, the 6 hours and the 6.5. We have combined some 3 hours to make a 6-hour if we could at some schools based on those meals per labor hour. And I'd be more than happy to share that data with you, those meals per labor hour for each school, went through each individual school, and we calculated that out.
Okay. Director Carr, do you, as the maker of the motion, would you like to respond to administration?
Yep, thank you. Yes, I'm open to that. I just want to see, like, if we can, whatever opportunities there are to explore, to address the vacancies, because this is a critical issue. And so I'm open. I am definitely open. And I don't know how that will be written, or if it's a motion.
Madam Secretary?
And Director Carr's motion, which I would like to read that back into the record first, to capture the intent, which, and please correct me if I didn't capture it, which is to explore combining some of the vacant food service positions to create a minimum of 30 40-hour positions to fill food service vacancies. And 2, consider innovative shifts. And 3, report back to the board in November, is what I've captured.
Is that correct, Director Carr?
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay,
And then-
Madam Chair, if I'm hearing the administration correctly, Mrs. Beauchamp has offered to bring information around current shifts and levels of staffing, which could be the presentation in November.
Excellent. And I believe that Director Taylor, did you have your hand raised?
Yeah. All right, thank you. I think we got to a good medium. I was just gonna have a couple of questions. For one, now that we're bringing information back, can we bring back the information of how many of those nutritional individuals are at the 30 hours? And then how many are at the 3 to 4, which is hourly? And what I was about to say is I was thinking of the time shift that Director Carr said. I think with having them be 40, they will probably have to be split between 2 schools, and that will probably create a different dynamic of somebody being short. But I am looking to see what we can do to ensure people stay there. I think more of like the 25 to 30 hours that will allow them to get benefits, but also how does it rank in which schools? Because like I just heard, some schools need more hours versus some need less. So I would kind of like to see that data for next month before I want to vote on it.
Administration?
Chair O'Halloran, members of the committee, we'll be more than happy to bring that data back as well.
Okay, thank you. And so, do we need to, we don't need a second on the motion, do we?
We do not need a second at the
Okay.
committee level.
Did you, Madam Secretary, you looked like you had a puzzled look upon your face. Would you like to make a comment or ask a question?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, given the additional questions of Director Taylor and the additional information of the administration, I am wondering if you would like to hold this reporting committee until next month and receive the data before making the motion, and that is a question for the motion maker, Madam Chair.
Director Carr?
That makes sense, yes.
Wonderful. And I would just add, if any other committee members or board members have information that they would like to be included in that, would they be able to forward that to the Office of Board Governance? That would be provided to administration so we can hopefully answer as many questions as possible with this next upcoming report.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Just for clarity for the listening audience, the motion before you is to hold this reporting committee until November, with a report to come back to the board in November.
Perfect. And may I please give the gavel back to Director Carr at this time?
So noted.
Thank you. All righty, that was a lot. Is there any further discussion? Right. Madam Secretary, next item, please.
Madam Chair, I do believe we need a vote on
Oh.
the motion that is before you, which is on a report.
Okay. Okay, so will the secretary please call the roll?
On Director Carr's motion to hold this report on nutrition, on the school, MPS school nutrition program, hold this report in committee until a report can be brought back to the board in November, in the November board cycle, with information as requested by the body.
Can I just ask a clarification? To hold the report or hold the motion?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
members of the committee, it is to hold the report, as the motion that Director Carr made was withdrawn with a report to come back to the board next month.
Thank you.
Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Again, just for clarity, the motion is to hold the report in committee until the November board cycle with information to be brought back to the board. On the motion as read into the record, Director O'Halloran,
Aye.
Director Peterson,
Aye.
Director Taylor,
Aye.
and Chair Carr.
Aye.
That's 4 ayes, the motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item puts us back at item number 3. Item number 3 is action on a request to approve the prevailing wages. The recommendation is that the board approve the FY23 prevailing wages at the rates as outlined in the attachments to this item.
Will the administration please present this item?
Chair Carr, members of the committee, this evening, I have with me Adrian Maddalini, Chief of HR, and we are asking for approval of this item as it pertains to prevailing wages. This recommendation is necessary in order to maintain our current building trade workers, recruit new workers, and stay competitive with the market. With your approval, the prevailing wages are attached and would take effect July 1st of 2022. This concludes my report, and we're more than happy to entertain any questions that you may have.
Do committee members wish to make comments or ask questions? Oh, Director O'Halloran.
Thank you. I did have a question. Somebody had contacted me one time questioning about the 4.7% wage increase and saying, we don't get that because of the prevailing wage. We're prevailing wage workers. The question was, However, most of the local unions approved a wage increase effective June 1st. This is an annual occurrence typically, yet we wait and wait, only receiving our wage increase in November or December with an effective date of July 1st. Why does this take so long every year when the wage increases are finalized by May 1st every year? So is there any way you can provide some clarity or insight into the timing of this report and recommendation?
Administration.
Chair Carr, Director O'Halloran, members of the committee, Adrian Maddaleni, Chief Human Resources Officer. When it comes to the prevailing wage item, we have to receive the information from the local trades union that provides the prevailing wage numbers. So usually we don't get that until later in the year, late summer. So that kind of delays the process for us to take action because we need that in order to determine what the prevailing wage is and to move forward. We can definitely look at the timing and see if we can bring it forward sooner. We could have conversations with the local trades council and see can we get the information sooner so we can process. But you correctly noted, Director O'Halloran, I want to make it very clear, we do backdate it, so it goes back to the beginning of 7/1. So we do make individuals whole, but we do understand that they're waiting, a few months before that takes place. So we'll definitely look at that.
Thank you. Director O'Halloran.
Thank you for that.
Director Peterson.
I move we adopt the recommendations of the administration on prevailing wages. And I just want to thank the tradespeople who are working very hard in a very large district with not enough people to help them. So thank you.
Are there any members of the public who would like to provide testimony?
Madam Chair, we have no request for public testimony on this item.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Will the secretary please call the roll?
On Director Peterson's motion to approve the administration's recommendation relative to the prevailing wages. Director O'Halloran.
Aye.
Director Peterson.
Aye.
Director Taylor. Aye. And Chair Carr.
Aye.
That's 4 ayes, the motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item number 4, which is action on a request to carry over fiscal year 2022 school deficit and surplus amounts. The recommendation is that the FY22 school deficit and surplus amounts be carried over to FY23 as noted in the attachment, and that the schools with the deficits for FY22 pay back the amounts within 3 years.
Will the administration please present this item?
Chair Card, members of the committee, each year at this time, it is customary to bring a request before you regarding the carryover of school deficits and surplus amounts. At this time, I will ask Brian Terrell, Interim Director of Finance and Planning and Budget Services, to walk us through the presentation, and after which we'll be more than happy to entertain any questions that you may have. Brian.
Is attached to the item. The number of schools in deficits has decreased since fiscal year 2018 from 62 schools down to 26 schools as of fiscal year 2022. This past year, only one school had a deficit of over 3%, which is down from 5 schools back in 2020. School surplus amounts have increased and total $1,763,607 for fiscal year 22. This is almost double of what was carried forward in fiscal year 21. We are available for any questions or concerns that you may have.
Thank you. Do committee members wish to make comments or ask questions? Director Taylor.
Thank you for that. And I understand it's the 3-year that they have to make it back up. I'm just looking at some of the percentages of overage, and I know like halfway through the school day, they used to do like a mid-year budget analysis. So I guess I'm just wondering what also is being put in place at the administrative level, going down to the schools just to kind of help be more efficient in this budgeting. Like, I know we are coming out of a pandemic, I can understand that. I just want to know, how do we get more accurate with our numbers?
Director
Administrator?
Taylor, sorry. Director Taylor, members of the committee, our budget analysts are instructed to meet with their school leaders bi-monthly. We could potentially move that up to monthly. We also meet with them 2 or 3 times a year to go over their budget and plan their next budget. And we do have some schools that we put on what we call the watch list, where everything that they put through has to be approved by the regional superintendent.
Chair Carr and members of the committee, one of the other things that we do is the idea of we monitor on percentages of how much of the budget has been spent, and we are monitoring each of those areas and watching that on an ongoing basis. And the regional superintendent, as well as the budget analyst, is going over that, making sure that they are moving forward, and where you should be at this time of the year. So that tracking is in place to support as well.
Thank you. Director Taylor, would you have any follow-up?
Yeah, thank you guys for that. And I wouldn't want to move it up to monthly, like everybody here is already stretched. I just wanted to put more stuff in place to be it. And this is like no slight to any of them, because we all know, not to bring the state into it, but we don't get enough money, right? So I understand how we have to cover some of it. I just want us to be very cognitive of what we're doing on that level, and then how does that overage go into the next year, which may make it shorter, for things that are priorities within our school. So, but thank you for that.
Director Peterson?
Yeah, just a couple comments. One, I want to point out to the public that we have a lot of transparency in this district. There's some people who are thinking that the solution to our educational problems in the state is universal vouchers, but we know that those schools have no transparency whatsoever. I am curious, though. There's a lot of schools who maxed out over $5,000, and is that that means that they didn't spend all the money that they could, right? I mean, they could have spent up to having a surplus of $5,000. Is there any takeaways of
why that happens? Many schools are looking at each last penny. I'm just curious if there's a way that we can help the schools spend all that they deserve. Administration?
Director Peterson, members of the committee, we send out frequent communications to our school leaders about the different deadlines. We try not to have any orders carry over fiscal years. So, for example, we have an order deadline of April 30th to ensure that most items get received before the June 30th deadline, when our financial reporting team starts their year-end procedures. Coming out of the pandemic, a lot of supply chain issues, so a lot of those items, even if they order them in February, don't get delivered in time, and that causes a lot of this carryover situation.
Thank you. President. Oh. All right. Any other comments, questions from committee members? Okay. Do any members of the public wish to make comments?
Madam Chair, we have no request for public testimony on this item.
All right. What is the pleasure of the committee with respect to this item? Director O'Halloran?
I move we accept administration's recommendation regarding school deficit and surplus amounts be carried over to FY23 as noted in the attachment.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Will the secretary please call the roll?
On Director O'Halloran's motion as read into the record relative to the carryover for FY22. Director O'Halloran.
Aye.
Director Peterson.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
And Chair Carr.
Aye.
That's 4 ayes, the motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item number 5, action on monthly finance matters. Authorization to make purchases, the report on change orders in excess of $25,000, the acceptance of the report on revenues and expenses, the monthly expenditure control report, the report on budget transfers, the report on contracts under $50,000 and their cumulative totals, and the acceptance of the donations. The recommendation is that the board, 1, authorize the purchases, and 2, accept the donations as listed in the attachments to this item with the appropriate acknowledgments to be made on behalf of the board.
Would the administration please present this item?
Chair Carr and members of the committee, this evening, we're asking your approval of the monthly finance matters before you. Janina Dumchek is here with me, and between the two of us, we are able to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Do committee members wish to make comments or ask questions? Okay. Do any members of the public wish to make comments?
Madam Chair, we have no request for public testimony.
What is the pleasure of the committee with respect to this item?
Madam Chair, before calling the roll, does the administration want to present on this item? So noted.
Director Taylor?
Thank you. I was trying to be the one to get us out of here early tonight. I'm going with the questions. For the NISA and the SS, it seems like we're just extending this contract, the one that's talking about with the Department of Labor. Is there a reason that we had to extend it? Was it due now, or are we just making sure that we have things in place? And I think it's the contract C029697.
Administration?
Chair Carr, Director Taylor, members of the committee, Janina Domchik, Director of Procurement and Risk Management. This was to ensure that we had enough funds to get us through the current contract year, because we had an increase in international candidates.
Director Taylor, any follow-up?
Yeah, I'll follow up with the administration. Thank you.
All right. What is the pleasure of the committee with respect to this item?
I'll move approval.
Madam Secretary? Okay. All right. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
On Director Taylor's motion to approve the administration's recommendation relative to the monthly finance matters, Director O'Halloran.
Aye.
Director Peterson.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
And Chair Carr.
Aye.
That's 4 ayes, the motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item number 6, which is action on the award of exception to bid contracts. The recommendation is that the board authorize the exception to bid request as listed in the attachments to this item based on the exceptions as described within the item.
Righty. Would the administration please present this item?
Chair Carr and members of the committee, we are asking your approval of the exception to bid contract. That's before you, and I'm going to have Janina Domchek to make some comments, and after which we'll be more than happy to entertain any questions that you may have. Janine?
Chair Carr, members of the committee, Janina Domchik, Director of Procurement and Risk Management. With respect to this item, we have 2 contracts, your attachments 3 and 4 for the Wisconsin Center District. These contracts are for our graduation ceremonies in May, and there are 2 contracts because the vendor wanted 1 contract for the first week of ceremonies and a separate contract for the next week of ceremonies. However, we are going to be asking to update these contracts after this meeting tonight because these 2 contracts each have a catering agreement incorporated into the documents that you have before you this evening. We are not utilizing the catering services. Therefore, we are going to be removing that catering agreement from each of the contracts and updating it to just reflect the actual contract with the Wisconsin Center District for the rental of the venue.
Thank you. Madam Secretary?
Madam Chair, members of the board, given that there's a need to update the contracts and that the board will need to see what you would be approving, it may be beneficial to recommend that the item be forwarded to the board without recommendation.
Director Taylor?
Absolutely. I would like to forward this to the regular full board without recommendation at this time.
Is there any further discussion? All right. Will the secretary please call the roll?
On Director Taylor's motion to forward this item to the board without recommendation, Director O'Halloran,
Aye.
Director Peterson,
Aye.
Director Taylor. Aye. And Chair Carr.
Aye.
That's 4 ayes, the motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item number 7, action on the award of professional services contracts. The recommendation is that the board authorize the professional services contracts as set forth in the attachments to this item.
Would the administration please present this item?
Chair Carr and members of the committee, this evening, we're asking your approval of the professional services contracts before you. Janine Adamczyk is here with me, and between the two of us, we are ready to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Do committee members wish to make comments or ask questions? Okay. Do any members of the public wish to make comments?
Madam Chair, we have no request for public testimony on this item.
What is the pleasure of the committee with respect to this item? President Peterson?
I move approval of the administration's recommendations.
Is there any further discussion? Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
On Director Peterson's motion to approve the administration's recommendation relative to the professional services contracts, Director O'Halloran,
Aye.
Director Peterson,
Aye.
Director Taylor. Aye. And Chair Carr.
Aye.
That's 4 ayes, the motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item number 8, action on a request to waive Administrative Policy 3.09, Parent 9, Parent E, and enter into a contract with Hayes Companies, Inc. The recommendation is that the board waive the policy relative to the term limit and issue the contract as set forth in the attachments to this item.
Would the administration please present this item?
Chair Carr and members of the committee, this evening, we're requesting your approval of this item as it relates to a contract with Hayes Companies, Inc. I have Janine Adamczyk here, and she's going to be walking through this particular contract, and after which we will be more than happy to entertain any questions that you may have. Janine.
Chair Carr, members of the committee, Janine Adamczyk, Director of Procurement and Risk Management. We're asking tonight for the committee to waive Administrative Policy 3.09 and enter into a contract with Hayes Companies for a initial 3-year term with 2 additional 1-year options for broker consultant services to the Office of Human Resources on an as-needed basis. We're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Do committee members wish to make comments or ask questions? Director Taylor?
Thank you. Is there any big changes that this will affect changing this?
Administration?
Chair Carr and members of the committee, Carol Edie will be providing some updates. Carol?
Hi, Director Taylor, members of the committee, Carol Edie, Senior Director of Benefits, Pension, and Compensation. And no, there's no changes. This is just a continuation of the services that we previously were getting from Hayes.
Director Taylor, follow
I'll
up.
move approval.
Do any members of the public wish to make comments?
Madam Chair, we have no request for public testimony on this item.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Will the secretary please call the roll?
On Director Taylor's motion to move approval of the administration's recommendation relative to the waiving of policy 3.09, Parent 9, Parent E, and entering into a contract with Hayes Companies, Inc. On the motion as read, Director O'Halloran.
Aye.
Director Peterson.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
And Chair Carr.
Aye.
That's 4 ayes, the motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item number 9, which is action on monthly facilities matters. The FMS awards of professional services contracts, contract modification, and material purchases recommendation. The recommendation is that the board approve the attached professional services contracts, the contract modification, and material purchases as listed in the attachments to this item.
Will the administration please present this item?
Chair Carr and members of the committee, we are asking for your approval of the monthly facilities matters as they relate to awards and professional services, contract modifications, and material purchases recommendations. Ms. Sean Kane is here with me, Director of Facilities and Maintenance Services, and between the two of us, we are prepared to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Do committee members wish to make comments or ask questions? Director O'Halloran?
Thank you. Can administration give us a little bit more clarity about the direct energy business marketing contract that you're asking approval of, please? Like, what is it's $9 million, and I'm just trying to understand exactly what we're purchasing with that.
Administration, sorry.
Chair Carr, members of the committee, Sean Kane, Senior Director, Facilities and Maintenance Services. The direct energy contract that we're looking at has to do with gas purchasing, and right now that the $9 million is related to a projection of what we would normally be purchasing per year. So it's kind of a every year purchasing point that we're moving forward. The piece that's in front of you right now is for the basis. It's referred to as the transportation, and kind of put it as an analogy. It's having a volume of pipeline that goes throughout the country. It's kind of getting, another analogy is like getting access to season tickets to a sporting event. So you're basically getting a piece of the pipeline that we are getting, moving forward with as part of this contract. But the other thing was just background data. That would be about $9 million projection, because right now the purchasing of gas is very volatile with the war with Ukraine, everything else with the pandemic. So right now, we're just trying to make sure we're allowing ourselves the flexibility to make that purchase as need be as we move forward, because this is a 5-year contract. Right now, we are purchased through March 31st of 2024. So this contract's actually buying future commodities from 2024 through 2029.
Director O'Halloran, follow up? Okay. Any other members of the committee wish to make comments or ask questions? Okay. Do any members of the public wish to make comments?
Madam Chair, we have no request for public testimony on this item.
Okay. What is the pleasure of the committee with respect to this item? Director O'Halloran.
I move approval of administration's recommendation as it pertains to the attached professional services contracts, contract modification, and material purchases.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Will the secretary please call the roll?
On the motion as read into the record by Director O'Halloran, I'm moving approval of the administration's recommendation. Director O'Halloran.
Aye.
Director Peterson.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
And Chair Carr.
Aye.
That's 4 ayes, the motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item number 11, as you have already dispensed with item number 10, which is a report with possible action on strategies used to maximize the fiscal year 22-23 state aid. This is an informational item, and although it has been noticed for possible action, no action is required.
Will the administration please present this item?
Yes, Chair Carr and members of the committee, the item before you conveys important information regarding strategies to maximize fiscal year 2022-2023 state aid that the district receives. With me this evening is Martha Kreisman, Chief Financial Officer, who will provide additional information regarding these strategies as they relate to fiscal year 2022-23. Thank you. Martha.
Thank you, Dr. Posley, Director Carr, or Chair Carr, I'm sorry. Members of the committee, Martha Kreitzman, Chief Financial Officer. We've talked about the revenue limit before, but the revenue limit is made up of state aid and property taxes from our Milwaukee citizens. So in order to maximize our state aid so that we don't have to tax levy as much to our property tax owners, our property owners, we, at the end of the year, try to spend as much as we can because they based the state aid on our previous year expenditures. Recently, expenditures have been lowered due to the pandemic and different effects of the pandemic, whether it's transportation, staffing, there's different variables that have come into play. So at the end of the year, we look at our expenditures and decide how can we maximize state aid for the next year. And two ways we can do that is by paying into the OPEB trust to help with our post-employment benefits, and also into the construction, well, I call it the construction trust, but the item gives the formal name, which is the Long-Term Capital Improvement Trust. And so we did both of those things at the end of fiscal year '22. We put $15 million into OPEB and $30 million into the Long-Term Capital Improvement Trust. And in that regard, we are hoping that we maximized our state aid so that this year, when we bring the final amounts to you at the end of October, you'll be able to see what the results were.
Thank you. Do any committee members wish to make comments or ask questions? Jason?
Chair Carr, thank you. Matt Chasen, Office of Accountability and Efficiency. First, just a point of clarity, the $15 million, that was the contribution to the OPEB, was in fact on top of what a regularly budgeted contribution was. Is that correct?
Chair
Administration,
Oh,
I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry. Chair Carr, Matt Chasen, yes, that is correct.
Quick follow-up then. We've made a couple of contributions to maximize state over the past several years into the Long-Term Capital Improvement Trust Fund. After this last contribution, what's the balance that has now risen to?
Administration?
Chair Carr, members of the committee, Matt Chasen, the construction or long-term capital improvement trust fund is about $69 million.
No follow-up? All righty. Thank you. Any members of the public wish to make comments?
Madam Chair, we have no request for public testimony on this item.
Okay. What is the pleasure of the committee? Director O'Halloran?
As it pertains to OPEB, I was wondering, with the $15 million contribution, as Office of Accountability and Efficiency noted, we did already make a regular update or contribution. How I know we're on track, right, to funding this. Did the $15 million significantly shorten that runway? Can you just give an overall, like, we're feeling good about this type of update?
Administration?
Chair Carr, Director O'Halloran, members of the committee, the extra funding that we put toward OPEB, the actuary will redo our kind of results of our OPEB, and to make it so that I think it's by 2037 we pay down our OPEB, they'll just redo how much we have to pay annually is kind of how it works.
Any follow-up?
Nope, that makes sense. Thank you.
So it should lessen what we have to pay annually.
Thank you. All righty. Is there any further discussion? All right. Madam Secretary, next item, please.
Madam Chair, that was the last item on tonight's agenda.
Great. Thank you all, and have a great evening. There being